As usual, this guide features niche strats that I would not recommend for party fighting. This is a write-up on the odd opener idea in M9S against Vamp Fatale. The reason for this is that both of the fight's major DPS checks, marked by Sadistic Screeches, are confined to the odd minute, meaning that under normal timings you do not get a burst under these phases at all. And yeah, the checks are kinda free to compensate for that, but most of my PFs could not do them for some ungodly, unfathomable reason. So this proposal is ultimately for those groups to use an alternate timeline that gives them bursts during those mechanics without too much in the way of wider consequences. And basically, I've seen that this helps a lot with those groups who, quite frankly, just could not beat those DPS checks no matter how free we think they are as experienced players. This could get a lot of new players, this has gotten a lot of new players to see more of the fight than they would have otherwise, even if you think it's unnecessary. Well, yeah, but that's a skill issue. It's not my skill that's the issue. You may see the last slide, the timing's listed, and think, oh, so we're bursting at 110. Let's go, let's just send it at 110 then. Absolutely not, because etherletting, a mechanic that forces everyone to peel off the boss at some point, happens at 310. So having to burst during that for a melee would be absolutely devastating. So instead we're doing 120 to avoid that and other mechanic consequences later. In short, this will not cost a use. As I recommended last tier against Dancing Green, where you hold the buff until Perfect Groove, whether or not you lose a buff is actually kill time dependent, but if you don't know your kill time, you should assume you're going to be going all the way to Enrage and killing the last second if you do it all. And if you do know your kill time, you're serious enough to not need this strat whatsoever. So here's the actual strat. The general principle as you go into the fight is to send 30, 40, and 90 seconds immediately to start their cooldowns. Because remember, we're bursting at 80 seconds into the fight. So the 40-second cooldowns would be used at 0, 40, and then 80 perfectly. The 30-second cooldowns would be 0, 30, 60, and then the 90-second use would be buffed by the raid buff still being up. And of course 90s, obviously, would get buffed on that second use. Save your 1-minute cooldowns until 20 seconds into the fight. Thankfully, this is marked by a hardcore tank buster that happens at this time. So you should use your 1-minute cooldowns when that tank buster happens to naturally align them with your first burst window. Or if you don't have 1-minute cooldowns, you can use normal quality eye drops at that point. Those will serve as a visual indicator to be like, hey, use your raid buff when the eye drops come off cooldown. The first proper burst would be at 120, during Sadistic Screech 1 after the first set of half-room cleaves. This will make the Coffin Maker DPS check easier for groups who couldn't do it, or allow switching back to the boss sooner for groups who were already beating it. First part here. At 320 is your second burst, that is immediately after the fourth spread of Etherlet, and you'll be bursting while the crosses from those spread AoEs are resolving. This ends as a hardcore tank buster hits, so hope you didn't make it big. Your third burst is during Sadistic Screech 2, and this happens like midway through the second wave of ads, and the buffs will last to the third wave as well. So if there's still any ads, if the middle ads from the second wave are still alive when the buffs go out, you can 3-target them with your bursts. Or otherwise, you can 2-target Flail and Boss from the third wave. Your fourth burst is immediately after Gay Baby Jails, aka Hell in a Cell. You can pre-position for Undead Deathmatch to the best of your ability. That might be especially hard if you're playing caster, so be careful. Also second part. The final burst is at 920, immediately after Sanguine Scratch 2, and thankfully there are no major mechanics happening during this. But yeah, if you have a deep enough understanding of your job, that's probably enough. I do have some job-specific notes that I'll scroll through now, so if you need it spelled out for your job specifically, just pause on your roll, screenshot it, whatever. I'll also explain what I feel isn't too obvious. First up is the tanks. The only thing that seems outlandish here is the Gunbreaker suggestion to use Bloodfest outside of No Mercy. But you need the cartridge to start Gnashing Fang's cooldown right away. After your Gnashing Fang, you actually have enough time to do a 1-2-3 combo and get that cartridge back before No Mercy, so you can still get everything you need into your burst. As for the melees, we kinda had to work things around with Ninja, because if you were not using the 2-minute cooldowns immediately, then getting enough gauge for Bunshin is kind of a problem. But using a Kunai's Bane on the 5th GCD, the 6th GCD that you do, will be enough to get you enough gauge for Bunshin, and then you can use Phantom Kamitachi. The dance step delay there is to not only make sure your standard step stays in line with buffs, but also to make sure that it is a finishing move at the right time. Because if you do standard at -16, then your next standard, you'll actually be starting that before Flourish comes out. And then your finishing move will not be in buffs. As for the casters, the Summoner cannot delay their big cooldowns whatsoever, because everything is tied to the Demi cooldown. So in order to delay their Demi even by the slightest little bit, they have to spam Ruins. And spamming Ruins is very bad. And this was already bad enough before Solar Bahamut, but now even the odd Demi is quite bad. And you'd probably know if you played it in fights like Byakko, where the Summoner just doesn't get Solar Bahamut in their 2-minute window for half the fight, unless they die. So seriously, do not do this strat if you have a Summoner, do not bring Summoner if you're doing this strat. Other than that, the Picto setup is for one where you have Retribution of the Medine for your first burst. And nothing here seems too difficult. And that's it. Hope this makes your raiding journey just that little bit more tolerable. Please stick around if you liked this or found it informative, and check my throne if you're feeling particularly generous. See you next time.